Retiring in 10 years isn't a fantasy, it's just math plus aggression. The reason it looks impossible is because most people use a 40-year retirement model on a 10-year timeline. The 40-year model says, work forever, save a little, invest a little, let compound interest do the heavy lifting. That works if you start in your 20s. It does not work if you say, I want out in a decade. On a 10-year clock, you can't rely on time, so you have to rely on savings rate. That's the whole secret. Short timeline equals high savings rate. And before we go any further, we need to fix the word retire. In 10 years, retire usually doesn't mean I will never earn money again. It usually means I want work to be optional. That is way more realistic and still life-changing. If you demand the version where you sit on a beach and never work again, the number gets huge very fast. If you are okay with the version where your investments cover your basic life and you can do part-time, seasonal, or fun work to cover the extras, the number becomes human. So let's build it from the ground up. First, what does life actually cost you? Not what you post online, what you actually spend. Rent or mortgage, utilities, food, transport, phone, insurance, kids if you have them, and a real number for fun. A lot of people who watch money content are somewhere in the $2,500 to $5,000 a month range, depending on where they live. Let's pick $3,500 a month as an example. That's $42,000 a year. That is your annual lifestyle number. Classic FIRE math says take your annual expenses and multiply by 25. That comes from the 4% rule, which is basically, if you only pull 4% of your money per year, historically you could make it last a long time. So $42,000 a year times 25 is $1,050,000. Over $1 million in 10 years. Can you get there? Yes, but only if you have a high income, or a very high savings rate, or you sell a business, or you and your partner are both pushing hard. Most people can't just casually save their way to $1 million in 10 years starting from zero. So we don't try to brute force it. We shrink the target. That's the first lever. Instead of asking, how much do I need to retire in 10 years? Ask, how small can my future lifestyle be and still make me happy? Because every dollar you do not need in future retirement spending slashes the total pile you have to build. If you can get your monthly life down from $3,500 to $3,000, that is $36,000 a year. 36,000 times 25 is 900,000. You just cut $150,000 off the target just by living a little cheaper. If you can get it to $2,500 a month, that's $30,000 a year. 30,000 times 25 is $750,000. You just deleted $300,000 from the original target. And that is why, in a short timeline, frugality is not punishment, it is power. Now, let's lay out 3 versions so you can hear where you fit. Version 1 is full fire in 10 years. You want 25 times your annual spending. You want to walk away completely. So, if you want $42,000 a year, that's $1.05 million. If we assume something like a 7% average annual return, which is a common long-term assumption for stock-heavy investing, you would need to invest around $5,700 to $6,000 every single month for 10 years. That is over $70,000 a year invested, not earned, invested. That is possible for high earners, tech people, business owners, 2 strong incomes, but not for everyone. If that made you dizzy, that's okay. That just means pick a different version. Version 2 is lean or hybrid FE in 10 years. Here, you only want your investments to cover your basics. Food, housing, utilities, insurance, simple life. And you'll cover the fun stuff or extras with part-time work that you actually like. So, instead of covering the full $42,000, let's cover $30,000 from investments and assume you can earn $12,000 a year doing something flexible, which is $1,000 a month. 30,000 times 25 is $750,000. That is still big, but smaller. At 7% over 10 years, to get around $750,000, you'd be looking at roughly $4,200 to $4,400 a month invested. Still intense, but a lot of dual-income households can at least see that number. Version 3 is what I call the 10-year freedom floor. This is actually the most realistic for regular people. The goal is not to cover your whole life. The goal is to build a big enough investment pile that can safely throw off maybe $1,500 to $2,000 a month, and you fill the rest with low stress work. That is not full retirement, it is stress retirement. You are retired from needing a full-time job. If you want $2,000 a month from investments, that is $24,000 a year. 24,000 times 25 is 600,000. To get to 600,000 in 10 years at 7%, you are looking at about $3,200 to $3,500 a month invested. That is still serious, but now we are talking about a number you could reach with two incomes, aggressive saving and side money. Now maybe you are thinking, there is no way I can invest $3,000 a month right now. That is normal. 10-year FIRE is advanced mode. You cannot do it on I save $100 a month and hope. You have to move multiple levers at once. You have to increase income. You have to lower your fixed expenses. You have to invest in something cheap and diversified. And you have to make it automatic so you stay consistent. The good part is that of all those levers, the one that moves the number the most is spending. Every $100 a month you cut from your future life removes $30,000 from the pile you need. Let me say that again, because this is the entire game. $100 a month less in retirement spending equals $30,000 less you have to save. That is how people retire early. They do not out-earn everybody. They reduce how much retirement has to cost. So let's build a real 10-year blueprint. Year 0, which is right now, you figure out how much you actually spend. Not guess. You open the last 3 months of statements and average them. Then you pick your 10-year lifestyle number. Maybe you are at $3,500 now, but you know that with a roommate, a cheaper car, a suburb instead of downtown, better meal planning, and killing the subscriptions you do not use, you could live comfortably on $2,500. Great. That is your target. $2,500 a month times 12 is $30,000 a year. 30,000 times 25 is 750,000. That is our anchor. Now you know the number. Next, years 1 through 3 are the build and raise phase. You make investing the first bill. You don't invest what is left over. You invest first and live on what is left. If you are serious about 10 years, you want a savings rate of 40 to 50%. That means if you bring home $6,000 a month after tax, you are investing $2,400 to $3,000. You put that into a diversified, low-cost portfolio, broad index funds, US plus international, maybe some bonds later, but mostly stocks early. You keep your lifestyle flat. And every time you get new money, a raise, a bonus, tax refund, extra shifts, you do not absorb it. You send it straight to investing. You do that for 3 years, and you will be sitting on a real balance. Then years 4 through 7 are the compounding and offense phase. By now your contributions are still doing most of the work, but growth starts to show up. This is when people get tempted to reward themselves. Don't. Keep lifestyle flat. This is also when you try to bolt on another income stream. A rental room. A small lawn or snow route. A dog waste cleanup route. A weekend service business. A small digital product that sells a few times a month. If you can make an extra $500 to $1,000 a month and either save it or use it to pay some of your life bills, you lower the pressure on your portfolio. You can even practice living on your retirement budget. Do a 3-month test where you pretend you are already retired and live on the lower number. If it is miserable, that is useful data. Raise the target and accept you need a bigger number. Years 8 through 10 are the de-risk and position phase. This is where you start thinking, what if the market dips right when I want to quit? That is called sequence of returns risk. To protect against that, you build a 1 to 2 year cash or very safe bond buffer so you can live without selling investments in a bad year. You also line up your bridge. If you retire at 45 or 50, you might not be able to touch certain retirement accounts easily until later, so you need money in a normal taxable account, or a Roth ladder if you are in the US, or you need rental income or part-time work to cover the gap. and you make your life more flexible. You get rid of car payments. You avoid lifestyle contracts that lock you in for years. You choose housing you can scale up or down. Flexibility is the friend of early retirement. Let's put real numbers to this. Say you make $80,000 a year and you take home about $5,000 a month. You push your savings rate to 45%. That's $2,200 to $2,500 a month. You invest that for 10 years at 7%. You land somewhere around $380,000 to $400,000. That is not the full $750,000. But it is a huge base. If your target lifestyle is $30,000 a year, $400,000 is about 13 times expenses, not 25. Are you fully done? Not quite. But you are in a place where you can say, I don't need a full-time job. I can work 10 or 15 hours a week. I can freelance. I can run my little business. I can live cheaply for 2 years while the market grows. You are effectively retired from needing a boss. Now imagine you are a household making $120,000 and you can live on $4,000 a month and invest $3,000. At $3,000 a month for 10 years at 7%, you'll be a bit north of $500,000. If you have one great year and can drop $30,000 from a bonus or house sale or restricted stock, now you're in the $600,000 zone. At $600,000, 4% is $24,000 a year. Add part-time work of $1,000 to $1,500 a month and suddenly you are at $36,000 to $42,000 a year. That is retirement for a lot of people. Not yacht retirement. Real-life retirement. There are a couple of objections people will throw at you. First, what if the market crashes in year 10? Then you don't quit cold. You downshift. You live off cash for a year. You do part-time. You let the portfolio recover. This is why we build flexibility and do not promise I will never work again. Second, what if you have kids? Then the number is bigger, yes, and you may need 11 or 12 or 13 years. Or you need more income. You cannot will the math smaller. But you can lower housing costs, car costs, and food waste and buy yourself tens of thousands of dollars of room. Third, what if you are starting at 40? Then you can still do a 10-year plan. You just have to go harder on savings rate because you have less runway. The upside is that 40-year-olds often earn more than 25-year-olds, so the savings rate is actually achievable. Last, what about inflation? That is why we use the stock-heavy portfolio and a 7% long-term number. Long-term stock returns have historically beaten inflation. You can also plan to do a little paid work in retirement to stay ahead of rising prices. So, let's make this text-to-speech friendly checkpoint. To retire in 10 years, you figure out your actual spending. You design a future lifestyle that is a bit leaner. You multiply that by 25 to see the big number. You accept that on a 10-year timeline, the only way to reach it is a high savings rate. You push your savings rate as high as you can by cutting fixed costs and raising income. You invest every month in low-cost diversified funds. You add a side income to accelerate. You make a small cash buffer near the end. And you stay flexible about part-time work. That's it. No magic stock. No lottery mindset. No waiting for perfect. It is math plus stubbornness. The people who actually retire in 10 years are not the ones with perfect jobs. They are the ones who stopped saying, I'll start when I have more, and started building with what they had. This is compound state. We don't wait for the perfect income. We build freedom with the income we have.